it's a kind of common saying in a way, but I had a friend in the 70s studying Zen with Ada Roshi in New York, upstate New York. Anybody from upstate New York? Yay. So uh, what? So I went to Roshi and said, what is the practice for overcoming the cold? Because in traditional zendos, or traditional temples too, there's not any heating either. So he said, what is the meditation to overcome the cold? I think it was fancied up a little bit into, a question, but it's more like a complaint, like, come on, we're in upstate New York. Can't we like put some heaters in the Zendo? I mean, we're not in Japan, okay? So Hiroshi kind of Zen, like, so what's the way to overcome the cold in the winter shiver and in the summer sweat? Yeah. So myself, I'm more of a, I'd rather shiver than have like the sweat kind of pouring right down my back. But I learned that it's okay to sweat too. So the title for the talk is Dharma is trading, exchanging one set of problems for a better set of problems. So that's like actually a phrase from recovery, which I think fits. So the basic sentence is before we really practiced Dharma, we had kind of one kind of problems and not always good ones. But then after studying Dharma, taking refuge, developing bodhicitta and devotion to a teacher, then they're all good problems. They're better problems, right? So some people are studying, continue, I hope, like Lojong practice, sometimes called mind training, like the 7-point mind training, where you have certain slogans or sentences you meditate on, which remind us to bring bodhicitta to the situation, correct? So that's when we bring bodhicitta to or dharma to our problems, we have a better set of problems. This is important because it still might be the same problem. Okay, so like from a confused point of view, we still have this problem, and from a non-confused bodhicitta view, the same problem is there, but we have a different orientation to it. So when we say a better set of problems, we're this kind of little joke, right? So it's kind of the same world, but we're approaching it from a different perspective like that. So the bad set of problems, we'd say, are the 8 worldly dharmas. Can anybody actually tick off all of the 8 worldly dharmas in the audience? Does anybody want to be that, get a gold star for today? Okay, someone's up for that. So,
blame and praise and blame, fame and I want to say disrepute, but that's not the word that you use. And
yeah,
gain,
distribute.
and gain and loss.
That's correct. Yay, all right. Nice. So when we say a better way to deal with the 8 worldly dharmas, it doesn't mean like we should never get praise, or we should never get pleasure or gain, or to be recognized. But it does mean to have like a certain level of equanimity like that, because chances are 50% of the time we won't get recognized. And half of life is lost. Do you agree? Things appear and then disappear. So from the standpoint of bodhicitta, though, we're looking at the whole development of an understanding how pain and pleasure, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and obscurity. Yeah. I think that's the hardest for some people. Like, it can be very simple and everything, but it's nice to be recognized for being humble. You're so humble. Yes, I am humble. Yeah, thank you. So the Lojong practices are kind of famous and they look kind of easy, but as we know, they're very difficult practice. This next month, actually in October, but coming up fast, our friend Geshe Gyatso will come back and teach more on 8 verses. I don't think we got through all the verses, did we? Yeah. So actually, it's kind of just an aside. It's kind of traditional for sometimes teachers to leave things off a little bit because then we know they'll come back. So he'll be back to do that. Those are the 8 verses and very difficult verses, I think. High level practice, don't you think? Yeah. So I've had some challenges this month. As some people know, the cottage was broken into last Friday and everything of value was stolen. Which is bad. But then there's like, how safe do you feel now, right? So we're having to put on some extra locks and get a security door and get cameras and maybe extra lighting, things like that, right? So that's a cost. So it's definitely samsara. But I'm inviting people and myself to look on it as, okay, this is my Lojong training for the month. Sometimes you say it's good practice, and that's when I usually say, well, I could do another practice just as well. But air conditioners break down and cottages are broken into, and people get pissed at me, right? Had that happen this morning, and Burden Day still wants to kill me. So, but it feels different from a Dharma perspective, and I don't claim great amounts of equanimity, but I know that if I was not practicing Dharma, I would say, well, this is stupid, I'm out of here, right? So there's something that's happened over 50 years that it's changed my perspective. And I want to give the credit to Dharma. I don't give it credit to my great practice, but credit to my teachers and to the Dharma itself, that if you swim in the ocean, you're just going to get wet all over, right? So even though you're not trying very hard, me being a lazy scholar and practitioner, but still you get something happens over time, and you're able to take deep changes or reversals and deaths of friends and, oh my gosh, getting old and, and a certain level of insight and equanimity that once in a while turns into the mantra of, well, of course, because of course. So my teacher used to say all the time, well, this is samsara. And of course, I don't like being reminded of that. But I think for those of us who've practiced for a while, and when I talk to people, I love the testimonials, frankly, where people say, it still sucks, but I'm relating to it in a different way now. The taking it, not that it doesn't matter, but I'm taking it a little softer. I'm doing less blaming. I'm gaining more energy to find a solution. I'm continuing my practice. That's one thing where I've been kind of lucky. Like, I've always thought, well, you just keep doing the practice every day, don't you? But I know a lot of times when we've had reversals, people or health issues, people think, well, when things get better, I'll get back. But I do want to offer that when things are shitty, that's really an important time to practice. And when things are going good, that's an important time to practice, something like that. Right? But the continuity of the training is really incredible. So that's why I enjoy little incremental improvements. We're going to see the Nari monks and lamas come in October to do a few more sand mandalas in Sacramento. And honestly, it's from my side, I like the whole thing, but it's almost more fun watching the mandala be created, because as you know, they have these the sand and it goes through this funnel, and I mean, it's really coming out just a couple of grains at a time, right? So that's how our mandala is built, a couple of grains at a time. And I do enjoy the sweeping up process too. Like we don't say you destroy the mandala, it transforms so it can be shared, right? And maybe if we get the right little baggies again, we can get a little bit of sand mandala. So quickly things transform, that's called change. And then also things change very slowly over time, don't they? Yeah. But I'm quite sure that, with different things, if I just like stayed in Scarsdale, New York, I might have ended up a Wall Street attorney or a businessman, something like that. Would have been fine. I would have joined the country club, which would have been fine. And probably, married a girl from Wellesley, something like that. Or Vassar or Smith, you gotta get one of the seven sisters in there. So shit would have happened, but I would have had the idea why is it happening to me? So that's the big shift in Dharma usually. It is happening to us, but it's not happening just to us. Do you agree? So I'm glad for some early changes in my life that put me in contact with Dharma, but also a human being, sometimes I think, if it just kind of stayed in my little social set in New York, I wouldn't have to put up with these kind of things, right? And Trungpa Rinpoche had a quote one time I was at a lecture. Bodhicitta is recognizing that nostalgia for samsara is a piece of shit. Something like that. And then he said, it's not, it's a really smelly shit. This is when he was first giving lectures. There was no building or anything, just giving lectures in other churches, because of course the churches in Boulder thought, Buddhists are always polite. They always come on time. They don't drink and they don't say the F-bomb or something. And this is like 1971. And, the minister walked out. Yeah. So I love that. Okay. I was 1971. I was in rebellion myself. So of course I love that. That's great. Like, this dude's powerful, which he was. So I want to stop here and see if I'm making sense. I know it's getting warm. Or people want to make a comment or a complaint.
Are we having a city retreat in October also?
That's true.
What's and the dates of the 24th and the 27th or something like that?
That last weekend.
I'm delaying my knee surgery for the retreat, so that's why.
Okay. Thank you, Ellen. I'm keeping delaying mine. I got putting it off. Thank you.
Something that we can't know, what would you think would happen on your passing if you were in Scarsdale with that more conventional life versus what you can hope for with the path you've chosen now?
What would happen? You mean just would I go to the hell realms, or would what? Okay. Anyway, my grandparents on my dad's side were, pretty Republican, and then on my mother's side were very Democrat, because my grandfather worked for FDR, and was one of the few people in Scarsdale that voted for John Kennedy. Because back then you didn't vote for a Catholic. You remember those days? Like, well, I can't have that. Well, I probably still have money in my trust fund, and and maybe still belong to some nice church like that, and still be a fairly decent person, I think. But I would have known something was missing somehow, like that. But definitely, that the trajectory changed very dramatically like that. Yeah. It's heavy to go against family pressure, don't you think? I mean, not lightly. It's hard. Yay.
The dyad of praise and blame, not only does one blame others, but relating that to the 8 verses, you also accept blame. So can you maybe expound a little bit on, there's 2 ways of looking at it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Did everyone hear the question? Yeah. Okay, that means you did. Um, uh, one way to look at that verse is we're not retaliating because someone's blaming us. It doesn't mean we have to agree with it. The big bodhisattva thing is non-retaliation. So and to take some kind of responsibility for being in this situation, right? So like if we weren't living in the cottage, we wouldn't have gotten broken into, and so it is a karmic situation that isn't always entirely on one side or the other, like that. But then accepting the blame means like you don't continue the fight like that. I think it's really hard to do like that. So it's really hard not to retaliate, actually. Very difficult. It's it doesn't feel good to retaliate afterwards, do you think? I don't think so. Yeah, right. But it's difficult not to, so we have to be totally reminded. But I don't, the 8 verses sometimes can sound like, a codependence kind of motto or something, because, like give the victory to others and, but we're really talking about not retaliating in many ways. Yeah. But self-blame for Dharma people tends to be the major thing. Like like for you James Joyce scholars out there, the again bite of Inuit, right? Something, and Ulysses, you're just constantly biting at yourself, right? This kind of awful conscience that won't ever forgive. So we have to overcome that, actually. And chaplaincy work and therapy too, it's like a lot of times we're in the odd position of being very we're trying to be like non-judgmental, right? So just this kind of story. So a couple of years ago, an older guy came in, for depression, right? So he was super nice, worked with depression and, being very Rogerian, right? Unconditional positive regard. And then it came out that he was a pedophile. So all the legal and reporting stuff and jail. But holding still some kind of humanity there is important for me. Or if you're in the chaplaincy or helping professions, then you go a little nutty, you see. So it's horrible, but he needs to be in jail. But at the same time, if I then turn that situation into hate or wishing he was dead, then something in me dies, you see. But it's very difficult, so an 8 versus somebody that's betrayed us. So it happens a lot in healthcare, or something. You're helping people and then then it doesn't work, or they turn out to be not super nice people. So that's why one of my favorite shows still, raise your hands if you like it, as Sopranos. How about Breaking Bad? I mean, that was incredible. Okay. Yes, I'm attracted to these, sociopaths. But the actress that played Dr. Malfi was really fantastic. how gradually she developed a warm, nurturing, and helpful attitude with Tony Soprano, but then at the same time gradually saw that, you know, he was a total mafia boss. And, you know, how to negotiate that, right? So that edge is a really interesting one, which I'll just give a little pitch for. The levies are coming. It's Joel, and I can't remember his partner's name, but they're coming on Wednesday, September 10th, to talk about their work called The Awakened Warrior, like that. They're meditation teachers. I don't know if they're affiliated with anybody in particular, but they have a good background in history, and Ellen knows them. And of course, they're teaching meditation to, you know, special forces, you know, people that are trained, you know, trained killers, right? So I'm interested to see what they have to say, but I'm also interested in, you know, perhaps asking some probing questions, right? So, and I think it'll be really interesting. And, you know, I have a little judgy side, like, well, you don't teach that something. But for 10 years, I, you know, taught meditation and Dharma at Folsom Prison. You know, how to be free and happy, right? And by the time people got to like, well, SAC, you know, New Folsom, people had done bad stuff, right? They'd done some really bad stuff, and you don't want them out unless you're a silly, bleeding heart liberal. You know, you want them there. But you're teaching meditation to them, and like, here's how we do the Brahma Viharas, you know, so that was strange, right? But there were some success stories. I mentioned, you know, like the person that invited me to come, I eventually saw the Dalai Lama at Long Beach, you know, 10 years ago. That was incredible, right? So there you are. So the 8 verses is, and the Lojong is very important to work also with these, you know, what kind of problem is it? These gray areas, these liminal areas where, like, you know, but like, what if you knew someone, you had a special vision, and you saw that down the line they were going to do something horrible, but right now they wanted Dharma and things were really good? Would you say, I'm not going to teach Dharma? So the Levy's presentation, I think, could make it very real if we go. I'm interested to see what they have to say and how they feel they you know, we're doing Dharma, making it effective. What do you think? Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad that you didn't suggest that if you just practice Buddhism, that the problems will all just disappear and go away. There's some sense of Buddhism being associated with passivity, just sort of do nothing acceptance. I know that's not true, but I was wondering if, sort of with that in mind, if you could describe the qualitative difference between dharmic problem solving and samsaric problem solving, like what you see as sort of the problems are still there. You still have to react or engage or do something with it, right? What would you say is sort of the main difference between the two, or the differences?
So Dharma is not a sacrifice philosophy or religion. So we don't like slice goats or sheep. We don't bury chickens and, you know, do mantras. You know, we don't kill animals. Basically, we don't sacrifice things or people. You know, we don't just throw them under the bus. You know, so But you know, it'd be hard to imagine any, you know, Dharma person like advocating for like killing or war, right? But then, you know, people say, well, what about legitimate self-defense? And people have asked Dalai Lama these questions over many years and things. So Lojong and looking at things from problem style keeps us honest. So, because a lot of things are very gray, right? So sometimes we go, okay, I'm not going to eat any meat, or I'm not going to participate in, you know, Facebook or something. And therapists say, I'm not going to take any insurance. They're all evil. But I work with them evil, like that. But generally, we're not magically trying to sacrifice something or scapegoat a whole population and cut them out like that. That doesn't mean you should be putting ketchup on your ice cream. So there's still, you know, need for discrimination of what the best situation is and how to help people the best way. So there's still lots of discrimination in a positive way. But what makes you a Buddhist? Is, you know, it's like Chuck Prebish was a retired now college professor of Buddhist studies early on that came to Naropa in the 70s. And, you know, I'd talked to Chuck and Charles, and he said, well, if you're a Buddhist, if you say so. So sometimes I introduce myself as just a bad Buddhist like that and try to cover it. But I can't see, you know, advocating harm really like that. Definitely not sacrifice.
I was wondering about trying to explain things to kids, basically, as far as, you know, that idea of, I mean, obviously kids, they want pleasure, they don't want pain, just like the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
But we develop an understanding through our practices, and, you know, that there's equal things come and equal things go, but it seems deficient when I'm trying to explain it to the kids, right? Like, they're like, but I still feel bad,
Yeah.
right? So how would you explain it? Ask a question. Say, what do I do about when I feel sad?
What do I do about feeling sad?
So of course my first response always is Sound of Music, but in our tradition, we're willing to stay with the sadness long enough to investigate its nature and to see it as a warning light. So we don't, you know, we don't smash the warning light, right? But we're not just wallowing in sadness either. So we look, okay, sadness means loss. And is this a loss that has to happen, or is it a narcissistic wound, right? So we still need the wisdom mind to see like that. So generally we're encouraging kids like, well, you know, that's replaceable, or we're teaching discipline like we won't be able to replace that until next month, because, you know, there's always that middle ground. But being a parent and being a Lama is all about saying no sometimes, at least half the time, right? And then being Lama, being parent, or anybody that has any responsibility is going to get people pissed at us from time to time. Yeah. Yeah. Teaching Dharma values to kids does work over time. It's interesting. kids can develop more sense of equanimity, and we're having them look at the bigger picture. If something arises, then it has to pass away. That's big. Yeah. Slides. You got it, Sylvan? Got it? You got it, right? Good. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Your mom will explain everything to you over lunch. Maybe just one more question, and then we can take a break, and if people want to cool off in the dojo, they can. Hi.
Hi. More of a comment than or reflection. Thank you so much for your talk. I love when you speak and I can nod my head in total agreement. It's really a great feeling. But I felt that way through the whole talk, so that was great. So I just wanted to share how the Dharma and my practice has changed the way I react to uncomfortable situations or pain, all of the above. I had a situation recently where I really felt wronged. I felt hurt and a little bit angry, but mostly hurt. And I thought, well, I've got to get over this because I still had to sing. So I had to get over it. So I'm trying to collect myself. And I did that. And what happened is normally in a situation like that, I might just leave. Say, I can't go through with this. So I'm just gonna go home. But I didn't. I stayed. And normally I would not want to approach this person that I had the interaction with. I would just ignore. But it was different because I had a little conversation with myself, and I thought, well, how do you want this? How do you want this to end? How do you want this evening to end? How do you want it to happen, or how do you want it to be later? Do I want this to just linger, faster? And I thought, no, I don't want to. So I did something completely different than I normally used to do. I went up to the person and gave him a hug. No explanation necessary. So I just felt so much better, but I know for a fact I could not have done that without the Dharma and without my practice. So I'm so grateful. And I didn't sleep well still, but I kept having conversations with myself about it instead of being angry. I thought, well, there's something to learn here. And I kept looking for that instead of how I was hurt.
Right, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so I just appreciate it so much because I see that more and more in my daily life, and it's just great. So
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, totally. So, all this is like Lojong mind training in action. So, where we're applying values, but also intuitive wisdom on the spot, because we can't just have a catechism for everything, right? So we have to develop that ability to respond from our center, in the moment, right? So we set up structures like the temple and big values like please don't sacrifice things, but on the spot we have to make some choices, right? So when I was studying some Zen with the Korean Zen teacher Son Snim Sung-san, he liked to tell the story of King Solomon as an explanation for one of the koans. Do people know the story of King Solomon and the baby? So two women arguing over the baby, and eventually King Solomon said, well, here's the solution, just cut the baby in half. So what did the real mother do? Does anybody know the story? Yes. So that's very interesting, in many situations here at Lions Roar, I wish for that wisdom of Solomon. Because it generally is, somebody wants to cut the baby in half, right? But we have to sometimes bring it up a little bit for the edge for the real mother, Prajnaparamita, to step forth and say, no, we're going to do it from this holistic point of view, something like that. Okay, this is good. Let's do dedication.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losang Drakpa, I make request at your holy feet.
Hi. So it's a couple of the announcements that were already mentioned, but I'll just re-mention them is that on October 5th, Geshe Gendon is going to teach on the 8 verses of mind training. And so that'll be at this service, and Lama Jinpa will be with him. And then on October 6th, or it could be 7th to the 12th, which is a Sunday, the monks will be making a Medicine Buddha sand mandala here, and people will be welcome to come in while they make it. And they'll also, I think, participate in some of the groups like Entering the Path, and they'll be here, so we would probably invite them to participate in our groups. And then the retreat that is upcoming with Susan and Matthew are working with Lama Jinpa about this retreat, the city retreat we're calling it, and also the fall retreat, a Dzogchen Mahamudra retreat. So any questions, you could talk to Susan or Matthew, and Rinpoche will be there. And that's the announcements that I have. So thank you.
For anyone that has been feeling sad, Sound of Music is playing at the Tower Theater September 13th and September 14th. Check the internet for times.
Last but not least, I forgot to mention something we sometimes forget to mention is that, we rely upon your generosity and donations to keep this place going. In fact, this upcoming expense with the air conditioner would be so helpful if anybody has means to help us. You could talk to myself or talk to Susan or any one of us actually, and then just for ongoing expenses to keep so we can invite these amazing teachers here and our own teacher, Lama Jinpa. So we have a QR code because if you're like me, you don't have cash on you. So thank you.
And it's just one retreat. The city retreat is the Dzogchen Mahamudra retreat. So I'm really looking forward to giving profound teachings. So of course, Mahamudra is everywhere, right? It isn't just outside. It's also the inside world. Do you agree? So this will be very special teaching that, again, is open to refuge people and pathways only like that. And free lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have the Eventbrite registration page up momentarily. There's also a hand raised online. Jojo has his hand raised.
Hey everyone, I'm gonna work with Patty. I sent a text, but want to have another cleaning day on September 13th on Saturday in the afternoon. So just kind of they'll be on the lookout for that. And then anyone on the cleaning crew's gotten a message from me, please just let me know you got it, and then you know, do a great job cleaning up, making our temple look beautiful. So thank you.
Omo araya pa